Welcome to Land Administration S'mores, where complex land issues meet campfire clarity. My name is Jack McKenna. I'm a geospatial consultant and land administration subject matter expert. We break down land rights, cadastral systems, geospatial tools, human rights, and property law into digestible bites, just like s'mores. From boundary disputes to land grabs, titling systems to tenure security, we're here to inform, ignite debate, and inspire change. Whether you're a professional, an academic, a student, a policymaker, or simply land curious, grab a virtual marshmallow and join the conversation. Today's topic of conversation is the Magna Carta and how it declares that the law governs, not those who interpret it. The Magna Carta versus the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, the JCPC judgment. It was the UK Privy Council case, UKPC 2023-43 from Saint Lucia, a crisis of legal fidelity. And I'm Jack McKenna with Land Data Plus. Constitutional foundation. Magna Carta established that power must be constrained by law. Even the sovereign is subject to the rule of law. This presentation questions whether judicial authority can depart from enacted law while still claiming legitimacy. The core question: can the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council replace Parliament-enacted law in Saint Lucia with unlegislated doctrine and still claim to uphold the rule of law? The issue raised extends beyond legal outcome to constitutional legitimacy. The Magna Carta principle. Rights cannot be displaced by authority acting outside the law. Legal accountability and due process are foundational constitutional principles. These principles continue to shape modern common law systems. The JCPC judgment. The judgment substituted enacted law with foreign doctrines. Australian Torrens principles were applied despite not being enacted into Saint Lucian law. The judgment constitutes judicial substitution rather than statutory interpretation. Constitutional concern. The JCPC judgment constitutes an instance of judicial overreach that overrides enacted statute, undermines parliamentary sovereignty, and erodes the integrity of the rule of law. Judicial overreach undermines parliamentary sovereignty and the rule of law across the Commonwealth, including the United Kingdom. Human rights violation. The JCPC judgment constitutes an arbitrary deprivation of property, contrary to Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The judgment stands in violation of fundamental and internationally recognized human rights norms. Authority displacing law. Magna Carta rejected arbitrary authority. Courts acting under Crown authority must also remain bound by enacted law. The danger identified is authority displacing law itself. Property rights concerns. Statutory protections and overriding interests were bypassed. The judgment was founded upon a defunct parcel and phantom deed. It constitutes an arbitrary deprivation of property rights. The protection of property. Magna Carta is often remembered for its due process clauses, but equally important is its protection of property from arbitrary interference. That principle has since been reflected in modern instruments such as Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which affirms that no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of property. Questions of constitutional legitimacy. Can a final appellate court alter the subject matter of a dispute? Can judicial substitution extinguish statutory property rights? The judgment raises issues of judicial overreach, undermines parliamentary sovereignty, overrides the constitutional role of Parliament as the sole law-making body, and substitutes enacted statute with unlegislated foreign doctrine. Finality versus justice. Final courts provide legal finality, but finality is not necessarily justice. Confidence in the rule of law depends on transparent reasoning and fidelity to enacted law. Public confidence is central to constitutional legitimacy. Judgment by a divided court. The judgment was delivered by only 3 of the 5 judges. 2 senior judges, apparently unwilling to support the reasoning, stood aside while the majority proceeded with the judgment to undermine constitutional integrity, weaken the separation of powers, erode parliamentary sovereignty, and place the rule of law itself in jeopardy. Can a divided judgment by a divided court legitimately extinguish statutory rights through judicial substitution rather than enacted law? The accountability question. Should the highest appellate tribunal remain beyond scrutiny? Should judicial authority be subject to the same standards of accountability? Magna Carta demands scrutiny where the exercise of power departs from law. Will the judgment be subjected to the scrutiny and accountability demanded by Magna Carta? Closing reflection. The law governs, not those who interpret it. Judicial power must remain tethered to enacted law. Courts must respect and preserve constitutional integrity by recognizing that the law-making authority, belongs to Parliament, not the courts. Conclusion. The Magna Carta stands as a continuing constitutional restraint on power. Courts remain bound by Parliament's enacted law. Where judicial authority departs from law, the rule of law itself is placed in jeopardy. The law governs, not those who interpret it. This is based on the book by Vance Chitoli, The Privy Council Judgment That Betrayed Justice, Imported Doctrine Over Enacted Law. It's available on Amazon. Again, I'm Jack McKenna with Land Data Plus. Thank you for your time and attention. Thanks for joining us around the campfire.